All right, so I'm going to put a sheet of 3/8 inch steel on the table. I have it in my rack over here, and I just use my little jib crane here. Plate dog. This rack is so close to my crane here. Okay, so that's my process for handling sheets of steel. Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Frank here, continuing to work on the scarifier ripper assembly for the mini motor grader. I've got some shanks to cut out. I've decided to cut the shanks out of mild steel and add AR abrasion resistant, much harder, tougher steel as the tooth on the end. So that's what I'm going to do. The AR steel costs like 3 times as much as mild steel. It makes sense to conserve it where you can. The shanks, the way they're going to be used, at least the scarifier shanks, are not going to be exposed a whole bunch, 2 or 3 inches maybe. They won't be under terrible bending stress, and the mild steel is malleable. It'll bend before it will break, whereas the AR, if you potentially could break it because it's more brittle. We're going to go to the plasma table and cut some shanks out. After we get that done, I think the next step is to come back to the tractor and install the axle brackets. So here's one of them. So the axles are hexagonal in cross section. So this will bolt around the axle and it'll give a pivot point for an arm of some sort. Now, there have been a lot of comments about the scarifier and the tractor not being able to pull 9 shanks and that sort of thing. So I know that the design is intended to look like a real scarifier from a tractor, from a motor grader, a real motor grader. So I kind of copied the design, or at least the layout. Pulling rippers and scarifiers through dirt or compacted gravel or whatever. Yeah, I know the tractor's not going to pull all these to, any significant depth. It might pull all of them to, a half an inch or an inch deep. It might pull 3 of them to 3 inches deep, right? So I understand all that, and I never expected it to pull this thing in its full capacity. So I said on one of my replies to one of the comments, which I mean are good comments, I never did explain that. You know, this is a scale model. I mean, the motor grader is a scale model, right? So it has scaled down capabilities significantly, right? It's about a 1/3 scale. It's 13 feet long. So, you know, the tires are 2 feet in diameter instead of 6 feet in diameter, right? So it's 1/3. And this scarifier bar is, you know, roughly 3 feet. I mean, the real one might be 8 or 10 feet, right? Maybe more. So it is scaled down, but the idea is it should look similar to, you know, what a real one would look like, even if it doesn't, even if the tractor's not capable of operating it that way, right? Okay, all that out of the way. We'll cut some shanks here, bring you back. I'm going to put spacers on the shanks so they fit more snugly in the holders, and we'll get some installed on here, and then we're going to shift our focus to the tractor. All right, so that's the first 3/8 inch shank. I had to slow my torch down to 20 inches per minute. I normally cut this material at 26 or 27 inches a minute. This is a new plasma torch. I'm wondering if it's doesn't provide the same power level, the same amount of amps as my old one. I don't know. Well, that's the problem. It wasn't turned up to the full amperage. I don't know what I did. I thought it was set on 45 amps. That may be my whole problem here. Okay, well, we'll come back and cut one more. Let's go fit this one. That's a good fit. So I had mentioned earlier that the parts weren't coming out of the sheet as easily as I have experienced. And I just discovered that I had the amperage turned down on the plasma torch. There's a knob on the back of it. Actually, I guess they call it the front, but it's on the back here where I have it installed. And I could have sworn I had it turned up all the way to 45 amps. It was turned only partially. I don't know what it was set at. I reached behind there and turned the knob and just double checking it. But so I think I'm in better shape here now. So I'm going to cut out some shanks. If I try to pattern these shanks, it's going to waste too much space on too much material. So I'm going to cut them one at a time. I can nest them better. So you can see how that part actually fell out of the sheet. That's kind of what you expect. All right, so I had to knock this one loose, a little more slag. I think what's going on is my torch tip is getting eroded, so it's not as accurate. The torch itself, the beam, the plasma beam is more diffuse instead of concentrated, so it doesn't cut as cleanly. You get more slag on the bottom of the cut, and as you use the consumables, the nozzle and the electrode over time as they wear, the cut quality degrades, and at some point it won't even pierce the material, at which point you have to stop and change the nozzle. Nozzle's good depending on the material. The thicker the material, the more pierces you have, the faster the consumables wear. If you don't have good quality air, that is very dry air, and I have a dryer and refrigerator air dryer and desiccant dryer. I mean, I have really good air. You know, you get anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes of cut time, depending on how many pierces you have. Every pierces erode the nozzle. Got a lot of pierces on here. 50 pierces just on this, each hole, and then each shank has a pierce, and then there's four pierces with the holes on each shank. So, and I had a couple of mess ups here. I had my starting point in the wrong place, so I'm lost this material. I might be able to salvage a shank out of it, maybe. I don't think I need to. But, all right, I've got everything I need. So I've had a bit of a change of heart over the past day or so as I've been working on this, filming this episode. And I've decided to change directions a little bit. As I had mentioned earlier and in previous episodes, I was thinking, one easy way and practical way to mount the ripper bar. Let me get you to zoom in a little bit on this if I can. So I'm using pictures from, I think, Caterpillar's website or something. So motor graders, yeah. So this I think is Caterpillar's catalog or something. So you can see how this ripper assembly is mounted with 4 arms, and then it's hydraulically operated with a cylinder here. So the more I look at this, the more I think that this is the way I should mount this ripper bar. Couple things. One, when you have a 3-point hitch like on a Category 1 tractor, there's a lot of movement back and forth, side to side, which I think this arrangement minimizes. So that's a problem that I would have to solve with chains or whatever. With this, you don't have to. I have the ability to mount it like this. I do have a frame. So the direction I'm going now, and we'll see how far we get in this episode. I don't want the episode to get too long. Is I want to cut out the parts for this mounting point here. So I'm thinking a flat plate and then a couple of side plates to attach to my frame members. I have a lower frame member and I have upper frame member. So creating these attachment points here, and now I have to come back to the ripper and I'll have to modify it. And change in direction, I think it's worthwhile. As I mentioned a little while ago, I think in this episode, anyway, this is supposed to be, the idea of this is a scale model. So it makes sense to make it look like it's supposed to be, rather than go with the easier way out. For me, would be the 3-point hitch. But I think I'm going to take the extra time and effort to do an arrangement like this. Let's see if there's another picture here. Yeah, here's another one. So again, 4 arms. So this plate and a couple of side plates to attach it to the frame. Then I'll need to come back to the ripper and make some changes. I think I can make them without a huge amount of changes. But you see, this ripper bar here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is kind of what got me the 4 big rippers on the back and the 9 scarifiers. So that's kind of where I got the number of teeth for the one I've built. And so I think I'm going to go back and spend some time doing it. Probably all we'll get done between now and the end of this episode is cut this vertical plate and maybe get these attachment points on it. I have to cut out side plates and drill holes in the frame and stuff, and that'll probably be next episode. So we'll go back to the plasma table and cut these parts out. I've got the tractor jacked up here. Fortunately, the tractor does have 2 axles, so I can drive it back and forth on the existing axle. I have the front of it pulled out of the shop a little bit, so I have room to work behind it. But this is what I'm talking about. Let me get you a little bit closer here.
All right, so this frame member and this frame member, my plan is to have a plate come out from here, flush with this, another plate attached to this, or this actually, one or the other. I guess I have it measured to this one to come out, and a vertical plate then from here to here, basically like a 10 by 12 plate that'll have the 4 connection points on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll bolt to the main frame here and the riser frame. So that's where I'm headed, and I took the wheels off so I can access all this and work on it. All right. Okay. Well, just wanted to let you know what my change in plans is. Is, and like a lot of my builds, I get into something and I change my mind. One of the viewers had said, you know, you should do it with the 4-link method. And I thought about it and I said, that's a lot more work compared to where I was with the 3-point hitch. I had the brackets, you know, to go on the axle, go around the axles and support, you know, the lower arms. And that's how I have the attachment points on the ripper bar itself. But I decided it's more important that it be closer to scale. That is, like the real ones are built, that would look better. So that's where I'm going. All right, so this is the plate that will fasten to the back of the tractor. Alright, we'll tack this one and we'll come over with the magnets on this one and tack it as well. Don't know if I can get, maybe I can, in a vertical, good vertical position. I think so. I want it to be square to the plate, and that's more important than square to the table. just going to tack this up temporarily here. I don't want it to be pulled out of square, so I'm going to put a tack on the top and bottom, hoping that will hold it a little bit better. Then I'll do light tacks on both sides. Trying to avoid pulling it out of square. All right, it's pretty close. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, there'll be bolts probably, you know, connecting this to the link arms. All right, so that'll be the plate that goes on the back of the tractor. All right, so this plate will mount approximately like that. Okay. I'll have pieces of frame members or support brackets coming out here and from here. So they'll bolt. This will become an assembly which will bolt into the frame for, you know, the ability to remove it. So you can service the transaxle. You need to be able to get into here. All right, guys, kind of a significant design change, you know, in progress here. I mean, this happens, you know, from time to time. I think I have, you know, an easy way to do something, and sometimes the easy way is not the right way or the best way. So this is a, you know, it's going to require some rework on the bar. I'm going to have to make new attachment points, but I think I'm just going to be able to add them to the bar rather than trying to tear a bunch of stuff apart. We'll see how that works out, but we'll come back next week continuing to work on this 4-point or 4-link attachment method as I showed you in the pictures, and I think that'll be, it's more work,
but I think it may not be more work in the aggregate. That is, if I hadn't gone down the 3-point hitch idea to begin with and had done this from the start, it wouldn't have been any more work, actually. But I think the end result will be a much better looking design. It will be, as I've said before, most of my builds are scale models. I mean, in the sense that they're fashioned after the real thing as much as possible and look legitimate, right? So this will improve the legitimacy of this particular attachment. It'll look like it's supposed to look. So, all right, a little delay in some progress, but I'm going to show you one more thing before we leave, and just so you can see what I'm doing here. Hang on. All right, so there. All right, so that's approximately how the shanks will fit in the bar. I think that looks legit. I wanted you guys to see what the shanks look like in the scarifier bar or ripper bar. I think they look legit. So I wanted to just show you that real quick. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell to get notified of upcoming episodes. We got a lot more work to do on this motor grader and the ripper bar. So leave me a comment and tell me what you think. We'll see you next time.